The growth tax revenue registered a year-on-year growth of 15.5% from April to November 2022, driven by robust growth in the direct taxes and goods and services tax (GST). GST taxpayers doubled to 1.4 crore in 2022. Union government emphasizes on capital expenditure has continued despite a higher revenue expenditure requirements during the year. The centre's CAPEX has steadily increased from a long-term average of 1.7% of GDP to 2.5% of GDP in 2021-2022 per annum. New expenditure brought down from 15.6% of GDP in FY21 to 13.5% of GDP in 2021-22 per annum, led to reduction in subsidy expenditure. The total expenditure of the Union government in FY21 rose to 17.7% of GDP, higher than the previous 5 years' average of 12.8% of GDP. The total liabilities of the Union government moderate from 59.2% of FDP in FY21 to 56.7% in FY22P. The combined gross fiscal deficit (GFD) of the states, which increased to 4.7% of GDP in the pandemic-affected year, was brought down to 2.8% of FY22 PA. Rise in employment levels and improvement in labor force participation rate. Talking about monetary management and financial intermediation, the RBI initiated its monetary cycle in April 2022 and has since raised the repo rate by 225 BPS, leading to moderation of surplus liquidity conditions. There is an increase in reserve money MO and broad money M3 by 10.3% and 8.7% year-on-year respectively, whereas the money multiple has remained at an average of 5.1%. The gross non-performing assets GNPA ratio of SCB's scheduled commercial banks has dropped to a 7-year low of 5.0, and the capital to risk weighted assets ratio CRAR remain healthy at 16.0. India is one of the most fast-growing insurance market in the world, and its life insurance premium has registered YOY growth of 10.2%. Talking about prices and inflation, in 2022, India experienced 3 phases of consumer price inflation. During the first phase, from January to April, inflation peaked at 7.8% due to war between Russia and Ukraine and crop shortages caused by heat waves in some part of the country. India's retail inflation peaked at 7.8% in April 2022, above the RBI's upper tolerance limit of 6%. The overshoot of the inflation above the upper end of the target range in India was, however, one of the lowest in the world. WPI started to increase in 2022 with a peak value of 16.6% in May 2022. Activities resumed post-pandemic, and the Russian-Ukraine conflict alleviated its more, and it slipped to 5.0 by the year end. Talking about social infrastructure and employment, expenditure on health sector touched 2.1% of GDP in FY23 and 2.2% in FY22 against 1.6% in FY21. 4.5 crore people exit poverty in India between 2005 to 2006 and 2019 to 2020. E-Shram portal developed for creating a national database of unorganized workers. As on 31st December 2022, a total of over 28.5 crore unorganized workers have been entered. Gross enrollment ratios GER in primary enrollment in class 1 to 5 as a percentage of the population in the age 6 to 10 years for girls as well as boys have improved in FY22. Out-of-the-pocket expenditure as a percentage of total health expenditure declined from 64.2% in FY14 to 48.2% in FY19. More than 220 crores COVID vaccine doses administered as on 6 January 2023. Nearly 22 crores beneficiaries have been verified under the Ayushman Bharat scheme as of 4 January 2023. Over 1.5 lakh health and wellness centers have been operationalized. Talking about climate change and environment, India declared the net zero pledge to achieve net zero emission goal by 2070. India achieved its target of 40% installed electric capacity from non-fossil fuels ahead of 2020-30. A mass movement lifestyle for environment launched. Sovereign Green Bond Framework SGRBS issued in November 2022. RBI auctions two tranches of 4,000 crores sovereign green bonds. National Green Hydrogen Mission to enable India to be energy independent by 2027. Solar power capacity under National Solar Mission stood at 61.6 watt as in October 2022. 62.8 lakhs individual household toilets and 6.2 lakh community and public toilets constructed in August 2022 under the National Mission on Sustainable Habitat. Talking about agriculture and food management, private investment in agriculture increased to 9.3% in 2020-21. Institutional credit to the agriculture sector continued to grow in 18.6 lakh crores 2021-22. Agriculture credit was about 13% more than the target in 2021-22. Food grains production in India saw sustained increase and stood 315.7 million tons in 2021-22. Free food grains to about 81.4 crores beneficiaries under the National Food Security Act for 1 year from January 1, 2023. Is 13,681 crores sanctioned for post-harvest support and community farms under the Agriculture Infrastructure Fund. And competitive, transparent bidding system with 1.7 crores farmers and 2.39 lakh under E-NAM scheme. Talking about our last topic, industry, steady recovery. The industry sector contributed about 30% of total gross value added in the country during FY12 and FY21 and employed over 12.1 crore people. The Economic Survey 2022 and 23 showed a rise of 3.7% of overall gross value added by the industrial sector, which is higher than the average growth of 2.8% achieved in the first half of the last decade. India's electricians export has risen nearly threefold from $4.4 billion in FY19 to $11.6 billion in FY22, with India becoming the second largest mobile phone manufacturing globally. Credit to micro, small and medium enterprises has grown by an average of around 30% since January 2022, and credit to large industry has been shown double-digit growth since October 2022. Overall gross value added by the industrial sector rose 3.7% as against 2.8% of the first half of the last decade. India has become the second largest mobile phone manufacturer globally. Direct investment flows into the pharma industry has risen 4 times from $180 million in FY to $699 million in FY22. Over 39,000 plans have been reduced and more than 3,500 provisions decriminalized as of January 2023.